Before we get into today's show, which features some major changes in our Week 3 power rankings after a week full of upsets, if you want us to continue to do this video, then share it. Twitter, Facebook, text it, Instagram, whatever. Help us out by sharing today's video on social media. There is a tremendous amount of disagreement among the Chat Sports staff that voted on this week's power rankings. Not that much disagreement at the bottom. In fact, the bottom two teams are unanimous. The Carolina Panthers, who made it 2 games for benching Bryce Young, and the New York Football Giants. They were 32-31 last week. That has not changed. Real concerns about those teams as they move forward. Denver is now 30th on the list. They slide down a handful of spots after another loss. I'm worried about Bo Nix because you got to be able to push the ball downfield. And even just beyond 5 yards, it has not been very good. Hopefully that improves in the not-too-distant future. Tennessee's had 2 great chances to win football games. They've found ways to blow both of them. They are 29th, one of just a handful of 0-2 teams left, which is why there's so much disagreement across the voting in this week's power rankings. The Commanders at 28. They go up a couple of spots. You also beat the Giants barely. So in terms of quality of win, that does not necessarily move the needle. They are technically, though, in first place in the NFC East because they beat a division rival. Their playoff odds are still not very high, though. The Colts at 27. Is there a worse unit in football right now than the Colts run defense? This is off to a historically bad start. I know it's only 2 games. They can't stop a nosebleed. Real concerns up front about Indy because now DeForest Buckner's banged up. If they don't figure things out, it doesn't matter what Anthony Richardson does. That defense is just an absolute killer. Sticking in the AFC South, Jacksonville. They could have beat Miami. They kind of blew that game a little bit there. And they had a real chance to compete against the Browns, and they blew that one too. So Jacksonville down several spots, Indy down several spots. The Raiders jump up multiple spots to number 25 as the Ravens did it again. The Ravens again blew a big lead. We'll come back to them here in a little bit. Not great week 1, much better week 2. There is still some built-in how you felt about this team at the beginning of the season that's kind of baked into these power rankings, but there are some pretty sizable differences as I consult the different voting here as it relates to the Raiders. A couple people had them fringe top 20, right in that range. Some people had them a little bit lower. I'm not going to say who. It might be our Saints guy, but they check in at 25. I want you guys to grade our NFL power rankings. And now, if you want to watch to the end, that's totally fine. It will be at the pinned comments of today's video. So if the ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there. A, B, C, D, or F. The Rams drop significantly in this week's power rankings. They were actually 10th last week. And they fall down heavily after a bad loss against Arizona. And, by the way, just decimation on offense. That's very much being factored in here. You're down to half your starting offense. Stafford's a great quarterback. There's only so much you can do when you're down that many key players. That's definitely factored into these rankings here. The Patriots at 23, they almost beat Seattle. I have actually been pretty impressed through 2 weeks with what we've seen out of the Patriots. I myself had them top 20. I was outvoted on that front. The Bears at 22. This was actually one of the more consistent rankings. There's not as much deviation there for the Bears. 1 week 1, you lose week 2. That offensive line, that play calling. Chicago, what are you doing out there? Miami at 21 is a very difficult team to rank. Because if you get Tua back, which you may not ever have happen again, you're feeling pretty good about him still. If it's Skylar Thompson all year long, ooh, buddy, that is not where you want to be. Early in the season, we often see these shoot, where do I rank them? And a lot of fluctuation in the rankings. And the sheer uncertainty about what the heck Miami's going to look like without Tua and how long that actually ends up being makes them a very difficult team to rank. Today's show is made possible by Zbiotics. Zbiotics. Sometimes after the watch parties, you guys hit me pretty hard with the super chats, and I don't always bounce back the way that I'd like to be able to bounce back. That was before we got hooked up with Zbiotics. Their pre-alcohol is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme that's designed to break this byproduct down. First, remember to drink the probiotic before drinking alcohol. Drink responsibly and get a good night's sleep to feel your best tomorrow. With this technology, Zbiotics will release different products that have nothing to do with alcohol as well. So stay in the loop and go to zbiotics.com/chatsports. You can also scan the QR code on screen right now to get 15% off your first order when you use code CHATSPORTS at checkout. You can also sign up for a subscription using our code, so you can stay prepared no matter the time or the occasion. Zbiotics, back to the 100% money-back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Head to zbiotics.com/chatsports and use code CHATSPORTS at checkout for 15% off. A big thank you to Zbiotics for sponsoring today's show. The Browns at 20. Kind of feels about right after they don't really move at all, by the way, in the rankings. They kind of just stay where they were. Bad week 1 loss, better week 2 win. Curious about what this team's actually end up being. The Falcons jump up a bunch of spots to number 19 after a awesome football game in the fourth quarter. A lot of early field goals that maybe weren't as fun for fantasy purposes there. But Falcons gutted out a pretty big win. Given their upcoming schedule, by the way, for Atlanta, that one was kind of critical to find a way to get because you got the Chiefs, a suddenly good Saints team, and the Bucs team as well. That you'll see all three of those teams in a little bit. Arizona at number 18. Now, they move up a bunch, one of the biggest risers this week. How much that was the Rams being decimated. I think I have liked Drew Petzing for a while now as a play caller. He was doing a lot of good stuff last year that wasn't always seen because the Cardinals were not just a good football team. Marvin Harrison Jr., the week 1 freakout's over. He's him. We all actually knew that going in, just like how Malik Neighbors is awesome too. That team could make some noise, especially with the Rams not looking great in the NFC West. Bengals at 17. No bigger, the Bengals and Ravens really, no bigger disagreements. Somebody who may have gone full Homer Stone had the Bengals in the top 5, which is ludicrous. It was at least balanced out by everybody else having much more normal rankings. There's enough voters here at Chat Sports that the one ranking doesn't actually impact and change things too much, but somebody else had them in the top 10 as well. That 4th ranking didn't actually move the needle more than a spot. So you were properly balanced out by non-homers there, Stone. You can type F Stone if you need to in the comments. September woes for the Bengals. I will say, you do feel better about Cincinnati, even in a loss against the Chiefs. You do feel better about them. Now, we will have NFL videos for you guys every single day, all week long, all season long. We'll have consistent updates for you, so hit that sub button so you don't miss out. YouTube.com/chatsportstv. Number 16, the Green Bay Packers. That's a masterclass performance by Matt LaFleur and also Josh Jacobs against a bad Colts front. Big deal there for Green Bay to get that win, avoid the dreaded 0-2 start. 2 for 32 are teams that have started the year 0-2 and gone on to make the playoffs since the expansion. The Jets at 15. I still kind of believe in them. I think there's a lot more quick game than maybe you would have liked to have had, but it's also Rodgers coming off the injury. Got that big win there over the Titans. Their goals are still pretty darn high as we move forward. Again, a big difference in the voting for the Baltimore Ravens. I don't know how they keep doing this. No one's blown more 7+ point leads in recent memory than Baltimore. They constantly do it. Against teams they should beat. They should have beaten the Ravens. They had a 7-point lead. Gardner Minshew, Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry. How do you lose that game? Now they got to beat the Cowboys. You start the year 0-3. Bad spot to beat. So will the Ravens make the playoffs? Y for yes, N for no. Be honest with your predictions for me in the comments. Fitting then that the Cowboys check in here at number 13. This one was actually truly probably the least amount of differentiation. No one had them top 10, nor should they, and no one had them lower than like 15 or 16. It's about what they were. It's a bad performance against the Saints. That defense, you're just not going to win football games, even with Mahomes back there or the all-time greatest Cowboys lineup ever, if you allow 6 straight touchdowns on defense. It's just not going to work. Seattle's 12. I was higher than anybody else on Seattle to begin the season. You can go back and look at our pre-week 1 power rankings. I love what I've seen from Geno Smith. It's exactly what I'd hope for in the new Ryan Grubb offense. I think Seattle, I have a futures bet with plus money on them to make the playoffs before the year began. I feel good about that one. Pittsburgh, they're only 11. This is the really weird spot of the rankings where, like, how do you put the undefeateds in there? That, like, are you kind of surprised we're undefeated against the one-loss teams who sometimes lost to one of those undefeated teams? So lots of disagreements with where these teams should be ranked. Pittsburgh is exactly who they've been the last 5 years. They're going to win 9 to 10 games. They'll probably be a playoff team, but they don't get much better play out of the quarterback. And Fields has been solid and steady, and he might not give that job back up. But by the way, how far can they really, truly go? The Chargers are number 10 on this list at 2-0. And this might be hey, maybe you haven't played the best opponent so far. We're about to really know how good the Chargers are. Pittsburgh this week, and then the Chiefs next week. You beat the Raiders, and you beat up on the Panthers. How much do we really know about you? That run game looks elite, though. And that could make life challenging that could make them a tough out at minimum each week. The Eagles at number 9. Look, they probably would have been 2, if not, worst case, like 3 or 4, if they hadn't blown that game against the Falcons. You had that game on lock. Now, if you want to, I frankly would have gone for it on 4th down, by the way. I am more inclined to blame Saquon Barkley than Kellen Moore. He called the first down play. How you paid Saquon Barkley. He has to make that catch. Hit him right in the hands. Like, I think that's an execution issue far more than it is a play calling issue. But you should have gone for it on 4th down, by the way. If your defense is going to get smoked like that, just be aggressive. There are a lot of different options for this particular question. I think you can go with the 1-1 team, some of the 2-0 teams you're not buying. Who is the biggest fraud in the NFL right now? Who are you just not believing? Be a hater for me in the comments. The Vikings at number 8 on this list. They have off to a very hot start. I love what Brian Flores does on defense. He's so much fun. He's just throwing stuff at you. Like I wish in CFP 25, I was telling this to my buddy last night, I wish there was a section of just like play concepts, weird shit. That's what the Vikings do. It's zone blitzes, fire zones, weird stuff. It's a blast to watch. Constantly getting pressure in creative ways, disguising stuff. And Sam Darnold still has some of his Sam Darnold moments, but he's been much more stable under Kevin O'Connell. Tampa at number 7 on this list. That was a very impressive win over the Detroit Lions, and I am unhappy that I was outvoted and the Lions came in ahead of Tampa. This is the stuff I don't like. When I myself had the Bucs higher than the Detroit Lions, actually several different voters did not feel the same way. I feel robbed of that. Lions just lost to Tampa. Tampa should be ahead of them. Maybe you don't feel as good about them as in terms of playoff team. I think the results matter. Games should matter. This is no different than when I get mad at the AP poll in college football and they have the team that just lost the team ahead of them still. No. We play the games, right? Anyway, I digress. Both teams are strong playoff threats. So too are the New Orleans Saints. I don't think a single soul, not even the biggest homer in New Orleans, had best offense in football through 2 weeks on their bingo card. Nobody. Pete Carmichael might have committed war crimes in New Orleans with the way this offense looks so much better now that Clint Kubiak's taken over. It's outside runs, it's play action, it's motion. It is a damn good offense. And Derek Carr's got some swagger to him we haven't seen before. He's dropping bombs to Rashid Shaheed. Saints look really good right now. Very impressed. I am curious how they fare if they have to kind of play from behind a little bit, but They look damn good so far. Who do you think is the most underrated team right now in the NFL? Let me know in the comments of today's show. The Niners, a bit banged up right now with Christian McCaffrey injured. Now Deebo Samuel hurts. They're number 4 on this list. They were as low as 12 and still as high as 3, which I think is a great indicator of, like, outside of the top 3, honestly, truly, the 4 to, like, 11, 12 range, just take your pick, frankly. The Texans at number 3. You know, they've won games. I don't think they've looked that great necessarily along the way, but we viewed them all as a real playoff contender, a real threat. They haven't lost yet. Got to be high. The Bills at number 2. They were winning that game before, too. Unfortunately, gave himself another concussion. This was, by the way, almost unanimous number 2. One voter had them at 5. That kind of destroyed it, which was kind of weird to me. But I like what I've seen from Josh Allen. They can run the football now with James Cook. I do worry about those defensive injuries, though. At number 1, a unanimous number 1, although it wouldn't have been if they don't get fairly lucky that Dejon Anthony were doing for the Bengals, committing DPI against the Bengals. I don't know what it is about Bengals and Chiefs. Mahomes just makes some dumb decisions. Like that's his kryptonite, maybe. Who knows? Chiefs still number 1, though, and that's not going to change until they end up losing game. Losing Isaiah Pacheco, though, could be a big deal.